What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. I'm so sorry that I have been gone for so long. I'm so sorry. It's just been a whole week in my work and I just have not been able to catch a break, but I am finally filming. I've been working on this video for some time. If you're just finding me for the first time, do not forget to subscribe. It is free of charge. No one's stealing your money. Just click that little subscribe button so I can keep making more of these videos. We are going to be revisiting the story of Wendy Williams and the recent Tubi documentary, which was Saving Wendy. If you guys have not caught it, it is free because I checked that to make sure I'm not paying for no shit. And I feel like for a lot of the world, this documentary seemed to highlight the current situation of Wendy Williams, which is that she is being held at some kind of health facility where she's paying $52K a month to live there. That is also kind of being paid by her guardian at the moment, Sabrina Morrissey. But for me, because we are in the trenches of this story, we've talked about the story a couple of times on my channel, I feel like it actually raised more questions for me. And I think the one key question that I have regarding this is the major claim that Wendy made that it was actually her son that had put her in this situation because of his frivolous spending. Now, I am on very good accord that something about this story is not exactly what it appears to be. And I have more questions to ask for you guys, so I really would love for you guys to help me parse through these things. And we're gonna get to that point, but let us walk through the claims that were made inside of this documentary. Now, Wendy's description of this living facility is that basically it is a quote-unquote prison for her. She described that in the last 30 days, she has only gone out twice. And when she is trying to leave the room, there is currently guards that are outside of the rooms. The door is locked on her side and she's not able to go up and down the elevator as she so pleases.
Over the last, say, 30 days, how much time have you been able to spend outside in the fresh air?
In the last 30 days, I went out twice for my teeth.
She also mentions in a Breakfast Club interview that it's very challenging for anybody to go visit Wendy and that Wendy has been using a landline to call out to different people. Obviously with a landline, you don't have your number saved like on your iPhone. You need to know the number by memory or you have to have it written down somewhere. And because she didn't have access to her regular phone, she was not able to call her friends, different family members. She kind of slowly began to be able to get contact with people like Charlemagne, people like Harvey Levin, who is on TMZ, and other important figures who have now helped really shine a light on this story. The other thing that Wendy disputes is the claim that she has dementia. So she has stated that she had not seen or has not seen a doctor in the last 2 years.
When's the last time you saw a doctor there?
A while.
Can you ballpark it?
No, I couldn't. Because I'll tell you what. I was for a year in Connecticut and I didn't go see anybody. All right. I've been here for 6 or 7 months and I haven't seen anybody.
Wait a minute, stop. You have not seen a doctor the entire time you've been at this facility?
No. No.
Now, there is a little bit of a contradictory statement in this because she frames this as though she has not really spoken to anyone considering this dementia diagnosis. What we do know is that shortly after the Saving Wendy documentary, Wendy Williams does appear on the Two Angry Men podcast, where she describes that there actually is a woman that comes to her room. She basically has a couple interactions with this person, and this person also gives her a brochure that outlines what are general facts about dementia.
I've not had a single doctor come in and talk to you about this diagnosis since you've been at this facility.
Yes. One person came, and the person was young, in the 20s, like a young person, you know what I'm saying, telling me this. And I'm looking at I do? Okay. Anyway, bye. Yeah.
And that's one time in 7, 8 months?
Yes, and she came like 3 times.
Now, this does not take the place of an actual doctor and going to get more information on your diagnosis. So even though I can say like, hey, there is some kind of medical information that's available to Wendy in this facility, we can't really say that she is really being taken care of in the way that she should be if she does have this quote unquote dementia diagnosis. Now, the thing that I want to pose as a question for everybody is this kind of history of Wendy's diagnosis. So I'm going to take us like all the way back to 2019. And if you guys can recall, in 2019, Wendy Williams did a multiple week stint at a rehab facility in Florida. In this Florida rehab, this is where Kevin and Kevin Jr. were told that Wendy Williams was suffering from some alcohol-related brain damage. Now, The Sun reported on this. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from their article. An insider explained that a brain scan was done as part of Wendy's rehab stay in Delray Beach. A neurologist sat down with the star, her son, and her then husband, Kevin Hunter Sr. The doctor explained to them that Wendy was suffering from alcohol-related brain damage. They told her that her alcohol abuse had done permanent damage to the layers in her brain, the insider said. All right, so we know from this 2019 stint that there is some medical issues that are going on with Wendy at this time. We know that Wendy is someone who is potentially abusing alcohol at this time and continues to do so. We see in the Where's Wendy Williams documentary that she is obviously under some sort of influence, whether that's alcohol, whether that's other things, but we know that Wendy is potentially not okay. And then we have 2022, where Wendy Williams is now enthralled in this guardianship situation. As part of this guardianship situation, Wendy Williams herself claims that there was a doctor that leaked medical information about her to the parties that were filing this guardianship.
Some doctor sent medical information without my permission.
Now, it is my personal speculation that the doctor that leaked this information was part of that 2019 rehab. The reason why I believe this is because in that excerpt that I shared with you guys by The Sun, this is a statement that is made, and they're basically saying like, hey, we are sharing this statement because we want people to have a little bit of grace when they're looking at Wendy, because she's going through some things physically, mentally, health-wise. I'm going to read you another excerpt from that same article from The Sun. The decision to share this news was difficult and made after careful consideration, not only to advocate for understanding and compassion for Wendy, but to raise awareness about aphasia and frontotemporal dementia and supporting the thousands of others facing similar circumstances, the statement read. Now, of course, this is an anonymous insider that is sharing this information, but if this insider is sharing such personal information about Wendy in a meeting where it's basically these 3 people plus a doctor, it's not too far to speculate that whichever insider is a part of this is very, very closely linked to either the family or is part of that rehab facility. Now, the reason why I find Wendy's dementia diagnosis to be kind of sketchy is because we were originally told that this dementia diagnosis was the reason that Wendy was placed in this guardianship. But what we know from Sabrina Morrissey's lawsuit to A&E in 2024 was that she states in this lawsuit that in 2023 was the year that Wendy was officially diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. What exactly the diagnosis was in the year before that, 2022, where she was placed under the guardianship, we don't exactly know what that is, but it wasn't, or it couldn't have been, the dementia diagnosis, because that only came a year after the guardianship petition. So again, this is my speculation that the guardianship relied heavily on the brain damage scanning that was done at the rehab center. Again, like I said, it's my speculation that somebody either very close to the family or somebody that was part of that rehab center was the one that leaked that information. Now, I said, according to Wendy, it was a doctor. She's like, some doctor leaked this information. So it makes me feel as though it was a doctor that she interacted with in passing. It wasn't like her primary physician that she probably has some level of relationship with. Moving on now to the allegation towards Wendy's son, that it was Wendy's son that had placed her in this situation to now be inside of a guardianship. So I'm going to show you guys an excerpt from the Tubi documentary where she is describing the kind of frivolous spending that Kevin Jr. was a part of that ended up having Wells Fargo have to intervene into Wendy's life.
Somebody was in her bank account that Wells Fargo flagged, and there was large withdrawals being taken out.
My son, he overstepped his boundaries in terms of me. You understand? He overstepped his boundaries, and he was inappropriately using my money without telling me crap about it. Like, is he stealing from me?
As you guys can see, Wendy is basically claiming that Kevin Hunter Jr. was involved in unauthorized spending, unauthorized withdrawals, and just kind of using the money for his events like his birthday party where he said, okay, this is gonna be like an $1,000-something boat, and it ended up being like over $100K. And so for this reason, Wells Fargo then had to step in and say, wait, hold on, Wendy, it seems as though somebody's taking advantage of you financially. You're currently in a bad situation, mentally, physically, and so we're going to now place this guardianship on you. Now, this is the point where I have so many questions because I feel like there are almost these two realities, and I feel like a lot of the public is really focusing on Kevin's participation in this. And while I feel like it is definitely worth considering that Kevin's frivolous spending had placed Wendy in this position, I also cannot help but recount different accounts that were made at the time in 2022 when this guardianship petition was occurring. So the way that Wendy had phrased this in the Saving Wendy documentary was that Wells Fargo was trying to get a hold of her, but she was not picking up the phone. Kevin had taken away her cell phone, and it was just like Wells Fargo had no other opportunity but to just, place her under this guardianship.
Wells Fargo decided the prudent thing to do was to make sure she's not being taken advantage of.
Correct.
What is going on with my son? And where's my phone? Where's my phone, Kevin? Where is my phone? Why are you keeping my phone? And there was nothing that I could do without my phone. You know what I'm saying? Who am I going to call? I don't know anybody in Miami.
I'm going to read to you guys an excerpt from a Page 6 article where LaShawna Thomas, who was Wendy's attorney at that time, had described an event in which Wendy had gone to Wells Fargo physically to ask to have access to her funds. All right, so this is actually an excerpt from The Sun. LaShawn claimed to the U.S. Sun, I met Wendy at the Wells Fargo branch. We went into the Wells Fargo branch and we spoke to the branch manager. We told him what was going on. The attorney said that the 58-year-old's only son was also present during the bank visit. LaShawn explained that they had, as of yet, been unable to get a hold of Wendy's bank statements, which were being mailed directly to her New York residence. Kevin Jr. also wanted to set up online banking for his mother while she was staying in Florida. Wendy said she wanted to get access to the accounts, LaShawn continued, and said the bank manager had told her, well, we don't do that in the retail store. That's the Wells Fargo advisors. Let me see if I can get somebody on the line. LaShawn continued to claim he called Lori Schiller, Wendy's longtime financial advisor. He went into another room and had a conversation with Lori and came out. He said Lori was willing to talk to Wendy, but she doesn't want anyone else in the room when she talks to Wendy. So Wendy said, no, why can't she talk to me with my attorney? I can understand if my son has to leave out of the room, but I want to keep my attorney here. LaShawn added, and Lori said, no, I want to talk to Wendy alone, and if Wendy doesn't want to talk to her alone, Lori wouldn't talk to Wendy. The trio then left the bank empty-handed. Now, why do I bring this up is because, like I said, in Wendy's Saving Wendy documentary, she mentions a situation in which the bank is trying to get a hold of her. They're not able to get a hold of her. They call her. Kevin Jr. somehow stole her phone and is not giving the phone back to Wendy. And so the bank does the righteous decision by just going ahead and filing this guardianship. Now, we can see from this account that Wendy physically went to the bank. Wendy physically tried to call Lori Schiller. There was an attorney present there. Kevin was also present there. They're trying to get a hold of this Lori Schiller person who's asking, hey, I want to talk to you, but only if, Wendy, you are by yourself. Now, if I can give the benefit of the doubt to Lori Schiller that say, hey, maybe Lori was worried that Wendy was under some influence and that's why she did not want Wendy to be around these people. Maybe that's the case, right? Maybe that's the case. But why is Wendy describing a situation now in which she's almost making it seem like she never tried to contact the bank, or the bank really only made a couple of attempts towards her and then somehow decided that she was unable to be reached? I also want to show you a video clip of Wendy Williams describing this circumstance. She describes Bernie Young as using her American Express to hire an attorney to file this petition, Lori Schiller as not being able to answer questions, and like I mentioned before, a doctor leaking her medical information. Now, this little excerpt of Wendy talking about this was done in 2022.
My thing is that I've been asking questions about my money. And when I began asking questions about my money, suddenly Lori Schiller has got no response regarding my money. I want my money. This is not fair. And Wells Fargo has no questions and answers with regarding my money. This is not fair.
Again, this is another example of Wendy is trying to reach out to the bank. Wendy is making this information public. Like I said, if Wendy just somehow couldn't be reached on the phone a couple of times by the bank, every other attempt that Wendy made to contact them to shed light on this story, was that too late or what? What was going on exactly? Now, this situation where maybe Kevin's involved, Wells Fargo's involved, maybe this attorney is even involved, is very, very troubling for me because it's hard to understand what these circumstances were around why Wendy was placed under this guardianship. And also, I feel like for me, the stories are very, very severely conflicting. So it's I want to say that maybe there was a possibility that these things happen all together, but it's also really hard to place them in some kind of a logical reasoning. I do want to say that Lori Schiller, who is Wendy's Wells Fargo advisor, is currently being protected by the bank in terms of providing support / resources for kind of round-the-clock security. Obviously, this is due to Wendy mentioning Lori Schiller in those earlier posts. The other odd thing about this, and again, I don't want to speculate fully on people that are actually really trying to help Wendy, is that oddly enough, I went back to LaShawn Thomas's account just to see what was the thing that she had claimed on this video where she reposted Wendy? She also had several different videos of Wendy, all present around the time that I made my previous video in January of 2025. And I noticed that all of those videos are now down. Now, again, I don't want to fully speculate on somebody because maybe she is with the right intention. Maybe she just kind of just wants her name a little bit out of that because maybe she's receiving some threats behind the scenes. But it seems a little bit odd to me that she would remove those because a lot of those were actually highlighting really positive things about Wendy. One video that is not up and I don't even have record of is her showing Wendy in Florida with her son, just living her life, being happy. And that video has been taken down. It seems like a really harmless thing to take down and disassociate yourself with. But this video that she had posted around the time that the interview with The Breakfast Club had come out had mentioned in the caption a couple of very interesting key things that I just want us to consider because, like I said, this situation is kind of being described as a situation where it's her son is taking advantage of her and the bank did the best thing in its power, but this is an attorney that was supposedly present at that time that had gone with Wendy physically to the bank, and these are the things that she is saying. So I think it's just worth considering all these potential realities, no matter how conflicting they are. Every action taken against Wendy was against multiple laws and FINRA regulations. Criminal reports were filed, judicial complaints submitted, everything. But when you have a global financial institution covering up the malfeasance of one of its own, especially when the victim is a media powerhouse, they will stop at nothing, taking phones, threats, it can be an unstoppable machine. Mortgages were paid off, political campaigns financed, all to keep the lid on this. Now, one very interesting part of this was phones taken away. Last month, that line did not have any significance to me, but today, when I'm hearing allegations that Kevin Hunter Jr. took Wendy's phone away and was the reason that Wells Fargo could not reach her,
What is going on with my son? And where's my phone? Where's my phone, Kevin? Where is my phone?
it strikes me as a very interesting thing to mention here. And one thing I do want to mention about LaShawn Thomas, again, I'm not trying to say, hey, maybe it's her, because I actually really feel like she is working in Wendy's best interest, or was at that time, is that she was at that time retained as an attorney for Kevin Hunter Sr., and she was not able to communicate with Wendy due to threats made against her, that there were going to be reports made to the Florida Bar Association to have her license removed. So she ended up distancing herself from Wendy at that time, and did mention that also when she spoke to the press in 2022. And I can't help but to believe her that she was trying to help Wendy, who was her client at that time, and that potentially they were and currently are going up against a giant, a financial giant, which is Wells Fargo. And maybe it could also be that Kevin Hunter Jr. gave them like a little leg room to be able to question Wendy or to put her under this guardianship. But I don't exactly buy it that it was specifically Kevin Hunter Jr.'s spending that put Wendy in this situation. Maybe, like I mentioned in my previous video, is that they are probably just trying to fight this small battle to just get Wendy out of this guardianship. They don't want anything to do with like that big giant. It's probably not worth fighting for them. Even if it means this story is going to never fully be told, they are probably like, you know what, it's fine. Maybe even Kevin Hunter Jr. is like, it's okay, just put it all on me. Like, let's just get my mom out of this situation. All right, I want to close off and just talk about what are the current efforts made to end Wendy's guardianship. What we know that was reported on Saving Wendy was that Wendy was going to take the next step to sign an affidavit to end the guardianship. We know this has also been confirmed by TMZ that on February 12th, Wendy did sign this affidavit. And as part of this process to kind of get the wheels rolling, Wendy was going to be reevaluated by a medical professional that was being chosen by Wendy's team and Wendy's attorney. Now, this was supposed to happen on February 18th, which we know has already passed by now. So I'm hoping and praying that any day we're going to find out the result of Wendy's medical evaluation, and that she will hopefully be able to be freed. Now, the thing that I want us to just consider about Wendy's case is that Wendy is potentially somebody who will need a sober coach or something in that regard to keep her from going back to her alcoholism, which was the reason that she was even placed in this guardianship. And in my opinion, is the reason that she is even in this facility where she's being locked down. If you guys can remember the Where's Wendy documentary that I mentioned, where she is visibly under the influence of something, and as we can believe now, based off what her niece, Alex Finney, has shared with us, is that she was struggling with alcoholism. She had just lost her mother. She was going through a divorce, and so she had turned to alcohol. Now, at the end or after filming that documentary, that is when Sabrina Morrissey sees the documentary, and then she ends up filing a lawsuit against A&E, which is where she claims that Wendy is permanently incapacitated. Now, I don't exactly think that Sabrina Morrissey is this blanket statement, horrible human being, because I do believe that at the time of, obviously we see the filming of the documentary, by the end of that or shortly after that, Wendy is probably very much still in that same mental state / physical health state where it's not too much of a long shot to say, hey, she is still struggling from this thing. Now, when she obviously gets into the facility, Wendy is no longer able to have access to alcohol or any of the other substances that she could be using. And so now we see Wendy as a sober person on a couple months. And to be fair, maybe she did need to be stripped from her vices. Like, we see her as sober. She has now regained her consciousness and her ability to think and all of those pieces that are very critical for Wendy to be a thriving and self-sustaining individual. TMZ recently reported that an employee at this facility had stated that in the early days that Wendy was staying at the facility, she went up to the restaurant/bar that was on the upper deck, and she was able to order a bunch of drinks and ended up getting drunk while she was on the rooftop. And this is what prompted the facility to place Wendy in the memory unit, because when she arrived, she was just on a 3rd floor unit where she can come and go as she please. But because she had gotten drunk and she was placed in this facility because of alcohol-related abuse. So when the facility realized that Wendy was on the rooftop drunk, they were like, wait, we need to move her to a different floor, a different unit where we can keep monitoring her a little bit closely. And so that's why she was placed in the memory unit that she is currently in and has been in there for the past couple months, where she's not leaving, she's not able to get proper sunlight, all those things. And those are definitely atrocities towards Wendy, because she should be evaluated regularly to see if she is in a better condition. And I'm sure she's having these conversations with her current guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, to be able to be placed maybe in a different apartment inside the facility. But for some reason, she is kept under wraps. And Alex Finney does speculate in the Saving Wendy documentary that she is being placed here because of the current lawsuit that Sabrina Morrissey is filing against A&E, where she's claiming that Wendy is incapacitated. And in order for her maybe to win this lawsuit, she needs to have that be a reality, that Wendy is in a bad mental state. But Wendy has stated herself that she doesn't want anything to do with that lawsuit. So it's a lot of people having a lot of say in Wendy's life right now. And all I want to say is that I really do not want this to be a Free Britney situation where she is freed and then she is kind of just left to her own devices. I do think that Wendy needs some good people around her, including people that can guide her to stay away from alcohol, that can keep her on the right path for as long as she is going to be living, which I hope and pray it's going to be for a very long time, because we do love Wendy. And so with that being said, I would love to hear your guys' opinions on the Saving Wendy documentary. What did it enlighten for you guys? Do you guys have the same questions that I had regarding Wendy's previous history? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Bye.